and the media and to pressure officials. Also, each significant spring should have a friends group to lobby for its protection, like the Friends of Wakulla Spring or Wekiwa River. Bill Moyer said there's only one force strong enough to counter the power of organized money today, and that's the power of organized people. The next solution is to raise awareness of the values and the degradation of the springs. Field trips of the spring basin and the spring for officials and the public are a very important strategy. In his book, River of Lakes, Florida writer Bill Belleville states, "We don't protect what we don't value. And one of the surest ways to value a place is to connect with it, even for a little bit." Another solution, public outcry. Perhaps the word is outrage. Must outweigh the political influence of lobbyists and moneyed interests, and I won't name them at this point. Senator John McCain said once upon a time, "Special interests control the debate. Until they are matched by public opinion, little progress will be possible." And another point, to date, most progress has been achieved by focusing on local government ordinances and comprehensive plans. In counties where major springs occur, counties where the local people care about their spring. Marion, Levy, Wakulla counties are good examples. Remember the bumper sticker. If the people lead, the leaders will follow. Our springs need leaders. Thank you for your attention.
I called this a workshop today because I was looking for public feedback, and that's why we're meeting today, is to get the scientists and the public together to inform each other. And that was incredible talk that summarizes hopefully everything that we can be accomplishing today in one talk. So I'd really like for you to ask questions and to start a dialogue with Jim. We have 15 more minutes for that, if anybody's interested.
I think they're ready for a break.
Well, that's the alternative. Pat?
Pat.
Yeah, I know media is extremely important, and in the past, the newspapers have played a major role if they get behind things like this, because like you said, not in the public eye, you don't exist. But in this digital age, with newspapers losing influence and readers, I don't have an answer to this question, and that's why I'm throwing it out. It seems to me that we need some kind of organized effort in some way to attract attention on the digital age, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. It's probably all of them. So, but you know, older people don't use it as much, but the younger generation coming up, that's where they get most of their news. And I think we need to find a way to funnel them to something that's interesting and makes them see what as part of the education of getting them to a spring, as Margaret said, if you've never seen one, you're not sure why you should care.
I agree, absolutely. The press is still important, even though we've lost some great environmental writers like Bruce Ritchie. Now he's got his blog, fortunately. Every aspect of the media we've got to use. Being an admitted old timer, I'm not into Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. But it worked for Egypt. If it can work for Egypt, it can work for Florida Springs. So we've just got to use every possible avenue. But actually getting the folks out there at the spring is just critically important. They're not going to work to protect it if they haven't been there and seen it and seen what a wonderful place it is. Beth?
Pat makes a real good point, and I have no idea how this gets channeled into any kind of action. But in conjunction with what you're saying about getting people physically out there to reach the younger generation, if we've got something up on the website like a virtual cave dive, virtual spring snorkel, virtual paddle, you're going to reach a whole different demographic. So perhaps one of the where we go next is to start sourcing out people who create those things and or manage that portion of the website.
Great idea. Margaret?
And if this is a comment that No Card Screens Institute is on Facebook, and people like Will Bell, I'm on Facebook, and other people, he posts often, and any of you will see that the minute these posts go up on the screen, there's a lot of reaction. It's very easy, so we can all sort of profit from these profiles and use them already. So.
Good. I'd love to see monthly field trips offered, monthly canoe trips at many of our major springs. I've taken legislators down the Ishtutney. I've had a press field trip on the Ishtutney, doing every possible way to reach these folks, and we just have to do more of that. Jackie?
Two comments. One is the Facebook idea is very, very powerful. And it's because not only is that there as a presence, but the way it works is everybody who visits that site brings it higher up on the list, so that if you were to Google Florida Springs, that starts popping up. So you really, as much as I think the older generation is a little hesitant to do the Facebook thing, it's the way it's happening. So I'm willing to work with somebody who might be interested in setting up something on Facebook. The other piece is, can you talk a little bit more about what's involved in setting up a friends group? I haven't been part of one, and I know there was one for Ishtutney that seems to have gone defunct, so can you share a little bit more information about that? Well,
the key to setting up a friends group is having something that really pisses people off. And that's going on in the Wassissa right now. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Jefferson County. It's kind of a rural county in North Florida, not a lot of folks there. They don't want the government coming in and interfering with them, but they don't want Nestle's in there either. And so Nestle's has really ticked them off, and they have become organized. I'm going to be giving them a presentation at a workshop they're holding at FSU tomorrow night. These folks are organized. They're holding field trips. They even got the airboaters in there with their airboats helping give tours. I mean, these folks are hot. So that's one, you got to have an issue. I mean, it's so easy to go home after work and sit down after supper and watch the TV. And there are so many competing issues. And people won't go to these meetings. They won't take action unless they care about the place you're trying to save. So there again, right back to get them out there to the spring to see what it's really about. Chris?
Jim, I wondered what you think about faith-based groups, getting them involved. Yesterday, as part of the Environmental Film Festival in Gainesville, they showed a really powerful film that showed up in the coal mining, the strip mining, mountaintop area of West Virginia, that it's actually the evangelicals that are starting to become this really powerful force, political force, to get the state government and the federal government to kind of turn around. But I don't know if how we've engaged the faith-based communities.
Yeah, I am not familiar with that, but we need everybody we can get. So get your church out there. We got baptism Sundays going on at Ishtutney now, thanks to John Wheeler. Had 5 annual baptism Sundays in order to reach the churches in Columbia County. I was getting rather frustrated trying to reach the average citizen in Columbia County after working since 1995 at it, and I was told, you got to go reach them through the churches. I said, well, how in the world do I do that? Do I have to go preach? And it turns out we've got Baptism Sunday. They used to have baptisms there at Ishtutney a century ago. And when it became a state park, it kind of faded out. So we got them back, and that is a moving experience to stand there. I mean, last time I think they baptized 25 people in the Head Spring, last Baptism Sunday. Those folks will never forget Ishtutney for the rest of their life. And not just because the water was cold when they were swimming. But Liz, we got to go after folks every possible way we can. The kindergartners, the old timers, you name it.
As one of the younger people here, I probably am an exception. I was at Otter Springs when I was 1 year old, but most people in my generation, and you hit exactly on this point, don't see the degradation. They come out here and they see a clear spring. There's algae on the bottom that's green. You know, it looks alive, looks like it's doing well. How do you? I guess it's tricky to tell people that everything's going poorly when there's still water coming out and it is clear. How do you get through to them that this isn't the way it's always been? It is going downhill. You know, if you get them out there once, they're going to see it and be like, oh wow, this is beautiful. And you know, Ishtutney's still gorgeous if you go down there if you don't have that history.
Right. You got to have knowledgeable interpreters that can tell the story. That's what you got to have. We got old historic photographs, black and white, underwater, that show what the springs used to look like. And they were no algae, crystal clear water. So we've got to show those kinds of comparisons. There's a poster in the back of the room with 3 photos. Be sure you take a look at that before you leave. That tells the story of one spot in the Ishtutney Spring Run, how it's changed over time. That's pretty dramatic. You really need to look at that. Yes?
Well, first, just let me say that I'm really happy about the creation of the Springs Institute. And one thing when I was looking on the website that I got really excited about was the Springs report cards. And I think that this represents a really good avenue to present the information to the public and also to bring the public and policymakers together. One thing that it does is it outlines clear goals for each of the springs restoration and then directly ranks how each spring is doing to accomplish those goals. And I know that a couple years back I saw a presentation that I thought was really great. It's something they're doing in Queensland, Australia, which is exactly similar to that, is that for each of the watersheds they have a report card that ranks it each year for how it's done and to the overall goals. And the public has a rally where the policymakers and managers have to get up on stage and get presented their report cards for the regions.
How about
and
that?
So it really holds them accountable. Not only does it rally the public to something tangible that they're used to seeing in a graded report card, but also it tells you how the public gets behind it and you see the momentum of any restoration that's going on. At the same time, you know, poor grades get kind of booed and really great improving grades get cheered. And I think that's something that could be a potentially used here to bring it all together.
The Florida Springs Task Force, that was one of our over 100 recommendations for protecting Florida Springs, was to do a report card on the major springs. And Secretary Strews and I went to the governor's office after the task force put this together and decided how we wanted to do it. I think Joe Hand was involved in developing the criteria for the report card. We went to the governor's office and the lieutenant governor says, no, we aren't going to do this. Because he could see the I mean, those folks think in 4-year increments. And if that spring isn't improved, if its next report card isn't improved the next couple years, I might not get reelected. Everything's got to happen in this 4-year interval. So that was the end of the report cards until the Three Rivers Trust asked Bob Knight to do a report card on the Ishtutney. It barely squeaked by with a B-. I don't think it would get that good a grade today. But that's a great way of showing the condition of our springs and the trouble that they're in. Yes? Red shirt.
Okay, yes. Hey, my name is Michael Lusk, and I manage Crystal River National Wildlife Refuge. We just took over management of Three Sisters Springs, which was in private hands until recently, on behalf of the City of Crystal River and Swiftmud. And I was very struck by something you said. You have many, many years of history managing springs, and we're very new to this, the Fish and Wildlife Service. You said that when a spring is open to the public, the only way to manage it is to either close it or manage it by on-site staff, otherwise it will be abused by the public. And let me just say, I see that very clearly at Three Sisters. And so I'm saying publicly, I would really like some input from those of you who have many years of management experience with springs. For example, one of the primary issues we have, I think, is carrying capacity. I'm really worried not just about people being in the water with manatees, which congregate there. I'm worried about erosion. The banks are becoming severely undercut. And this time of year, it's like a giant swimming pool. So I'm really concerned about carrying capacity. And I would like to invite some of you who have experience to come out and look at it and make some suggestions and help us, myself and the city and Swiftmud, make some recommendations for how we can protect that spring, as you said, not only for its natural resource value, but as an economic engine for Citrus County, because I'm truly concerned that the algae that's crept into Kings Bay is going to make its way into Three Sisters, and pretty soon it's just going to be like everything else.
Well, thank you for being concerned. And there are experts on this field that can help you. And I'll be glad to get with you later and we can discuss it. Bob?
I'm going to have to bring it to a close. Thank you very much for that discussion. I'm sorry I got started, and Jim carried it very well, and we'll get back to it, hopefully with other talks. If you can bring your questions up later. But we're going to take a 15-minute break and get started right at 10 o'clock. So thank you.